made a donation, which you'll hear about, and they'll talk about the gist of today and their contribution to mental health. We have to maternal health. We have a team from National Women's Council. We are very lucky to have Honorable Fiona Nyamutoro here, and then we'll have Canary and Humphrey today to talk to us. So quickly, we're going to have Canary take us through what that story meant to maternal health, what he thinks is a contribution of media, and did he know that it would bring us here, it would bring Africans on board and other people to contribute to the cause. So Canary, do take it away.
Thank you. My name is Canary, a journalist with NBS Television. When science told us that young people aren't as much at risk of being infected by COVID-19, there was a sigh of relief among the parents. Little did they know that the effects of COVID-19 would even be worse among their children, worse than COVID itself. On April 15th this year, I set out my journey to Kasese to document the lives of young people that had been affected by the lockdown, the first lockdown in 2020. Schools had been shut in Kasese like everywhere else in the world to reduce the burden of COVID-19 infections. This unknowingly had created another burden that has now seemed to even have a bigger impact among the young people that I do deeply care about. Parents of these young people had lost employment, and thus the little savings that they had been left with, they dedicated them to feeding their families until the lockdown is lifted so they could regain their employment. But this, as you well know, created a vacuum for other necessities, especially among the teenage girls. It was the essentials like sanitary towels and pads for the girls. Parents were unable to provide for their young teenage girls and daughters, and this eventually led to vulnerability among these same girls, most of whom were already dating their fellow teenagers. This was a trap for them, like you saw in my story, and they ended up exchanging sex for pads. Many were not in position to have information on how to prevent pregnancies, so they ended up with very early pregnancies. Girls at the age of 13, 14, there's a young girl who was around 14 who had 3 children. Why? Because there's not much information out there. The lack of sanitary pads was just a symptom of the bigger problem. We found out that hundreds of girls had checked in different health centers because they had terminated their pregnancies during the lockdown, and unfortunately, some had died. Some had died because they did not have information on how to do the right procedures, which is safe abortion. Some had died because of fear to approach the elders and be able to talk to them and tell them what to do. Some had died because the health centers inside Kasese had actually not been given enough facilitation, resources, money, equipment to be able to take care of these young girls with complications that had resulted out of unsafe abortions. Maternal deaths became a big problem during the lockdown. After the lockdown, I later realized that it was not just a problem of Kasese, but a problem of the entire world. Uganda, to be specific. This problem had been documented in different parts of the country, in eastern Uganda, in western Uganda, in northern Uganda, but even in the central, where many would imagine that information is actually available. When this story came out, there was a lot of feedback. And neither did I know that we would be here on this occasion, seated with big people on this side table, thanks to Richard Hand, who has put all this together. But I later realized that, well, the mass media have an excellent potential to promote good sexual and reproductive health outcomes. Given their ability to disseminate information in a broad, timely, and accessible manner, the mass media constitute an important source of information for the general public and policymakers, like Fiona. As information providers, the mass media inform, educate, entertain, persuade audiences. Media as an agent of socialization disseminates values and information to society, but more importantly, the media have been shown to have the power to focus public attention on important issues. And that's why I dedicated myself to documenting these stories, to be able to focus attention to important issues in society. Politics could be important, but our lives are more important. The media has the agenda-setting role. The recognition of these roles and critical value of the media and communication is a driving force behind the emphasis of my reports on social development issues, including sexual and reproductive health and rights. And therefore, I do urge everyone, every stakeholder, to not just encourage media to focus attention of the audience on such important issues, but also try to figure out your different roles and different capacities. We're all advocating for one thing: reducing maternal deaths, and at the end of the day, be able to bring that number down to zero, because it is possible. It is not rocket science. It is not something that cannot be done. It is however a process that we all need to put efforts to. As media, we have done and continue playing our part. We continue documenting these stories, drive the agenda in the public and the audiences that do watch our stories. But I do urge every one of us to look inside every role that we all do and be able to advocate and do anything possible to bring down maternal deaths, because as you well know, 75% of this population in Uganda, 41 million, are all young people below the age of 15. Now that, if we don't advocate for the ending or reduction in maternal deaths, all future professions will be affected. There will not be journalists in 20, 30 years to come to document these stories, to document where Uganda has come from, where it's going, what it has gone through. There will not be people running institutions and organizations like AfriPads. There will not be leaders in parliament like Fiona. There will not be leaders in the Women's Council. There will not be people to be able to fight for the rights of others. And therefore, the decisions that we do today do have a great impact on our future. With those few remarks, thank you for coming, and I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you. Sex for pads. Oh, that can't be true. You know, on Twitter that was running. And we are so privileged, including myself and everyone, that you think that solo, you're like, really, pads? How much is a pad? But every month, if you have to spend a certain amount of money, and menstruation has a lot of issues. They are mental, they are physical, your body, your mood, everything about you. It's like an entire big process. And the different campaigns now running on Twitter on what menstruation means to a woman. So to take away the burden of worrying about, do I actually have the materials to use? I think that was such a good reminder to take away the blindfolds of privilege and to remember the need for concerted efforts. We know that media is a fourth watchdog. We know the role that you do. COVID has taught us now more than ever, media has power. We thought it had power, but it has multiplied that power and respect. Sorry about that. It has multiplied that power for us to know. It's thanks to that story that we have a team here to discuss this. So thank you, Canary. And I'm going to call in Gertrude from AfriPads. Before I call in Gertrude, we've worked with AfriPads for so long. Their passion when it comes to the girl child and menstrual care in people is very admirable. They're going to go out of their way. And when they saw that story, they were one of the people that called in first and said, look here, girl, look here, reach your hand. What are the statistics that you have on the young women there? And what can we do as an organization? So Gertrude, do take us through why this is important to you, why you had to make this tremendous donation to you, Gertrude. AfriPads was, before I go into why we are here today, AfriPads was founded in 2010 and it has become the world's leading social enterprise manufacturing reusable sanitary pads. We are founded on the belief that if we can overcome menstrual barriers, we are one step closer to gender equality. Our innovative menstrual health and hygiene solution drives life-changing impact through reusable products, menstrual health education, and an evidence-based approach. Our reusable sanitary pads are UNGOS quality certified, so women and girls are sure that the sustainable menstrual product that they're getting also is of high quality. When we saw the very sad coverage that NBS did on the girls in Kasese who were trading sex for pads, as a menstrual health and hygiene advocate, we were very touched because we want to ensure that something as simple and natural as menstruation should not hold anyone back, and that these girls should not be engaging in such high-risk behavior to get something that is natural. Menstrual health is a basic right. All women need straight, and therefore this should not be something that should hold them back. Today, when we saw that, we decided that we have to get involved as a menstrual health and hygiene advocate. So we reached out to our charitable arm called the AfriPads Foundation, and we have decided to donate 800 menstrual health kits and 800 pairs of AfriPads underwear and a booklet that helps the girls understand what's going on in their bodies and how to have a happy and healthy period. We believe in having a holistic approach to menstruation. It's not just enough for you to get a product, to get a pad to manage your period. You need to be empowered with the education, as we have eloquently, as Kanari Muguma has eloquently put forward to you today about sexual and reproductive health and rights. It's more than just knowing what's going on in your body. You need to understand everything with SRH, and that's why we have partnered with Reach a Hand Uganda today, and through their peer education network in Kasese, we are going to be able to distribute and reach 800 women, 800 girls who have been affected by teenage pregnancy because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Anywhere in the world, 800 million women and girls are grappling with menstrual health and hygiene challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, it has put more and more women into period poverty. People who were able before the COVID-19 pandemic to afford menstrual health and hygiene products are unable to. And unfortunately, you can see the situation in Kasese as it's happening. We are so grateful for our partners today who have made it possible for us to reach these girls, to reach these unfortunate girls. Through Reach a Hand, last week, ahead of this distribution, we partnered with Reach a Hand Uganda's peer educator based in Kasese and gave them a basic training on menstrual health and hygiene. That is going to form a package of Reach a Hand Uganda's SRH services in Kasese. So in addition to them going to talk to these girls and empower them with this information, they will also be able to have the menstrual health and hygiene component. We are also so grateful for the partnership with National Women's Council, who are offering us logistical support to get these kits, underwear, and these booklets from Kampala to Kasese. Thank you, Gertrude. Picking up yourself, and someone is using maybe averagely 2 packets of pads or 1.5. That is, if a packet is 3,500, in a year a person is using 84,000. And look at a young person in Kasese. Today we have them in a camp after the Nyamwamba breaking and the displaced. But how many young people are going to have 84? It's like practically, if they checked most of us, like to ask you for that 84, you check and you're like, do I really have that money? Have I saved enough? So there is need for this girl to worry about that need, and for AfriPads to have thought about coming in and lessening that burden. It's such a big step. It's such a step that shouldn't be underrated. There is willingness and show for concerted effort. And I know AfriPads wouldn't have come if Canary hadn't gone to investigate the story, if Rich Hand wasn't interested in saying, can we have work with a journalist who can go in the field? So everyone is playing a part. And in a way, AfriPads today, you're contributing to achieving some of the guidelines that as a country we have ratified We've been talking about the Beijing platform and our action to maternal health. In a way, this is such a big contribution to it because maternal health starts with reproduction. Reproduction implied is, pads. You start with menstruation. That's what reproduction is. So thank you, Gertrude, and we're going to be getting back to you later on. But let's hear from Nora from National Women's Council and the role that they are playing, because I know this is a topic that is dear to them. It's a topic that they have shown interest and effort towards. So do share with us what this means to you, as a platform.
The Treasurer of the Women's Council, and I'm with my colleague, Mastuda Namatolu. She's the publicity of the National Women's Council. I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. It's really a very touching moment. When this story was run on NBS, naturally everyone was reaching out to us. National Women's Council, have you seen the story? What do you think about that story? What are you going to do as a council? Immediately, we are so touched. One of our roles as National Women's Council is parenting and guidance. And when we saw that story, we could not imagine that a young girl, a teenager, can accept to have sex for a pad. No girl child should go through such a situation. I was heartbroken. And as the National Women's Council, we felt that maybe somewhere we are failing as the council. Maybe we are not sensitizing the girls. But immediately we said, what can we do? We reached out to AfriPads. I made a phone call to her, like, truly, I've seen something that is so painful on media. What can we do about it? Is there a way that you can help? And we also went on our Twitter, on our pages, on National Women's Council, on our WhatsApp, on Facebook, and very many people were responding positively. Immediately she told me, I'm going to contact my bosses and we shall get back to you. And we thank God that this is the end result. But as National Women's Council, we want to appeal to our government, really, that we should take this as a priority. And we thank God that Honorable Fiona Nyamtoro is here with us. These are some of the things that we should discuss. A pad is a basic need for a girl child. A pad is something that every girl child should be able to access at free will and immediately. It should be like sugar, how you can have sugar at home or how you can have water at home. Every girl should be able to access a pad just like that. We pledged as the National Women's Council that we shall transport these pads up to Kasese and also offer any kind of logistic support. We also want to thank our friends who came in to help. We have a friend who donated solar lamps out of his own will, 10 solar lamps. He was like, even if the girls are getting the pads, the girls should also be able to read. That is what he could afford. We also have two friends who contributed 200,000. Each person got 200,000. This is a collective effort of colleagues. When someone tells you that my daughter is having sex for a pad, and it's because the economy, right now the economy is terrible. Some parents can't even afford to buy salt. How will they afford to buy a pad? And this is also a call to very many other organizations out there. When such a story runs, let's come together as a team and we help the girl child. I want to thank Richard Han for being there with us, for working with us as a team, and for being able to work with the young girls in Kasese. Today I really don't have much to say. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, members.
Yes.
I'd love to welcome the media fraternity joining us today, and also to our partners, AfriPads and the National Women's Council for coming, and as well appreciate our champion, Honorable Fiona Nyamtoro, who is the National Female Youth MP, representing all the young people in this country, and also especially the young women and girls, for the passion that you have, and also the dedicated support that you've offered to reach our hand and partners to make sure that this does not only stop in Kasese, but also it can go to other districts, because all women and girls are kind of affected the same. And also that's a strong appeal that I'm pushing to AfriPads, that the good gesture that you have done for Kasese can also be the good gesture that we can extend to other districts, especially those that we come from and also those that we work in. And having a partnership with Honorable Nyamutoro, I know that is something that we can really push to make sure that it happens, because her coverage is the whole of Uganda, not only Kasese, but that's only the wish that we have. And also we shall continue working together. I'd love also to thank Canary. I remember when we were having a brainstorming session about this movement, we didn't know that it would even come to this magnitude moment. Not only that AfriPad has come up, but also we have other strong partners that have come up to show support and also to show willingness in terms of extending some of our programs we have in Kasese, because of the story that was aired on NBS and the different follow-up webinars that we had. So that really shows the power that media has. And we understand that 80% of our related content in Uganda, I don't know whether I'm wrong or right, is biased on politics. It's on to 5% will be on entertainment, and other percentage will be so much of showing the sadness. Gundi Afude, Gundi Akozechi, and all that. And me and my brothers, we created up a group of basically bringing together the youth programs, looking at the programs that should be contributing in showcasing the issues and challenges that young people are facing. We should really be focusing on that, and also be given more time in terms of showcasing some of these stories. If Canada does a good piece like this, other media houses might look at it as a documentary and as an organization willing to sell an agenda. But that is a way that we are able to showcase the needs of young women, of young boys, and the challenges they are going through in their different communities. So for us, we believe, as Reach a Hand, that our partnership with media houses should be very strong. Our partnership with media houses should be an equal partnership in terms of us highlighting the challenges that young people really go through, especially when it comes to their sexual reproductive health challenges. Right now we might be talking about menstrual hygiene, but I might say that by yesterday we might have had over 1,000 girls that have been impregnated all over the country because of the challenges that we're going through. There's another story we're working on with another investigative journalist, especially the African Institute of Investigative Journalists. And the story reads, I was raped by my father. And there are so many girls that are facing the same challenges, being raped, being sexually harassed, not because they have lacked sanitary pads, but because of the environments they are going through. There are so many girls in this country who are exchanging sex for pads. When Canada came up with the title, many of us were bothered. But later had we known that it's going to bring more results than even anticipated. We had wanted these scientific organizational titles that we put, and the story, you know those long titles. But the meaning was young women and girls, they don't sometimes trading themselves, they're not trading themselves because they are willing to do so. It's the conditions that they are in. And menstrual hygiene is one of the biggest topics that we should really be talking about. We are happy that we have a champion in Parliament, but also we need more champions to support Honorable Fiona, to advocate for the promises that were made. For example, you remember the last government, not the new government that we are in, there were so many promises that were made for young women and girls access sanitary pads. There were so many promises that were made, because AfriPad is only AfriPad in Uganda that we have. But imagine if you have AfriPads in different parts of the country, covering different regions. We believe the young women and girls will be very, very, very supported. If, let's say, we are putting a budget in buying masks the way it has been done, and we are having that budget in terms of giving sanitary pads to every girl, I believe also AfriPads will increase on the machinery and manpower to make sure that they can produce as many pads to cover most of the girls in this country. I believe that with Fiona's ambition, can be able to lobby in terms of having different plants that can be able to produce sanitary pads for different societies. So that's what we are really lobbying for, and that's why for us we are into this partnership, And that's why we're going to continue working with different media houses, not only Canada, but TV programs, TV shows, especially targeting the young people, to highlight some of this. Canada is a media champion that for him is not only stopping in Kasese, already working on some other ambitions to go in different parts of the country, to highlight more challenges of young people. Because if those are highlighted, are the more opportunities that also young people can really get than us highlighting people fighting and people striking, and yet we have patent needs that our citizens really have to fulfill so that they can be better leaders in future. So as RAU, we are planning very good programs. One, we thank the training that was provided by AfriPass, our peer educators, and the logistic support that is coming from National Women Council, and also the support, individual support from Canary, from Honorable Fiona Nyamutoro. We really thank you for that. But as well, we are going to continue extending information on menstrual care through our youth days and table talks and demystifying myths and misconceptions around menstrual hygiene. And through this, we are going to use our peer educators on the ground who are already trained in Kasese, that are going to move in different sub-counties and different health centers, distributing these pads. The girls have been registered, and also we know that this is really going to help them. But it's not only going to help them for 1 year, we are lobbying for more support through to your bosses and the foundation, that this gesture can really continue every year and also extend it to other districts. And also another thing what we're going to do is to integrate menstrual hygiene with our family planning information so that teenage pregnancy can really stop. Very soon we know that our men, our dear brothers and our uncles and our fathers to the different rural communities where they are the ones who are busy terrorizing our young girls and marrying them off. We are soon introducing another program called the Men Plus to encourage men as well to engage into family planning talks, and also here they can also be able to partake some family planning methods like vasectomy. So we as young people have to advocate to our fathers and uncles and to appreciate especially the girl child in understanding, and also to have some of these conversations into their home. And also we are happy that through Canary's story, it was not only sided to women and girls, but also it had integration of men on what they really thought. It had integration of religious leaders, it had integration of stakeholders, and at least we are happy that in the parliament that we have now, we have people that are more exposed to the challenges that young people go through, and we really hope a lot from you, Honorable, to rally your colleagues so that we can advocate issues that really affect the young people, so that we can have proper environments where we can make informed choices in life. So that said, I thank everyone that has joined us today. This conversation is for us to continue pushing it further. You never know, out of this launch you might get another big donation, maybe someone offering a plant to do sanitary pads for a different location. So all the power is in your hands as media personalities. So I'd love to take this opportunity to welcome our special guest, Honorable Nyamutoro, to have 2 or 3 words that she can say. And also we shall be updating you further on how the sanitary pads are going to be distributed. Our social media channels are open. On the ground as well, we are rallying some media personalities that will go with the peer educators and our project officers to make sure that this reaches to the people that are supposed to be reached. So we have to be really accountable. Not to say that we are going to give out sanitary pads and then you wait for each hand to give sanitary pads, they are nowhere. So we pledge to AfriPass that good enough the National Women Council is offering transportation to Kasese. We shall make sure that the girls get their pads. Thank you so much.
I'm here today to address the plight of a girl child from Kasese, a story that birthed a lot of concern across the country, that was dubbed Sex for Pads on NGOS TV. We get to realize that our minds are triggered further on how heartbroken we were on seeing such a story run. Now you can imagine if you would still be standing to breathe if you watched stories from 146 districts across the country. This should just reawaken us that the Kasese story is just a crystal in a bowl of sugar. It should open up our minds to sit down and reflect how much more work we need to do as a generation of leaders and as a country to ensuring that the future after us is a much, much better youthful population. I get so emotional when I'm talking about issues of the girl child because I do not understand how we need to sit down and convince ourselves that the foundation of our population begins with a mother. When you wake up and you say children are raising children, how do you explain that you have a 14-year-old who has 3 children? What do you expect those children to become? By the grace of God, one of them would become successful, but ideally, they would probably also turn up into child mothers themselves. So I want to challenge each and every one of us. I want to thank AfriPads for taking the right step in the right direction, but I also want to challenge you further, that it is not enough. When Humphrey was speaking, I was thinking within myself, I said, perhaps we should hire more investigative journalists to run around the country. The stories that would come out would even be much more embarrassing to even want to air them. Matters of sexual reproductive health are very entrenched deeply, especially now that we are living in times where the word vulnerability, as it was earlier specifically defined by the dictionary, no longer makes sense. It is hard now to determine who is more vulnerable than the other. And you don't want to imagine the ones that were already vulnerable, how much more vulnerable are they now? This is the situation that we are dealing with. Matters to do with menstrual health are not just going to be addressed by legislation. We can set out ourselves to set the laws and the policies. They can be enacted on paper, but the constitutionalism of them entirely depends on us as a people. Today you're able to give a teenage girl out there a pad. By the way, when we talk about girls having sex for pads, I have had arguments and different narratives of people saying, how can a girl sleep with a man for pads? That is for rural girls. Urban girls can actually afford a pad. How much is a pad? And I think that is one of the greatest lies that we are telling ourselves. Because even when you hear stories of girls who go with sugar daddies, even when you hear stories of girls who they dub slay queens that end up with different men for one reason or another, one of their reasons, number one priority on their necessity list will be a pad. It is not going to be makeup. A girl can live without makeup, but how many girls can vibrantly contribute to the development of their community if they cannot take care of their menstrual health? Today, if a girl is able to access a pad and take care of her hygiene during menstruation well, what about the different stereotypes that rotate around menstruation in our societies? How do we socialize with a girl child from day one? I've shared a story of a young 12-year-old girl who got pregnant because she was having menstrual cramps, and a colleague told her that for those menstrual cramps to cure, a male friend has to lie on you. That is the depth of what we are dealing with. How best can we influence this peer-to-peer transformation and transfer of information to ensure that when a young person is talking to another, they are actually relaying the right information. They are actually able to guide a colleague into taking the right decisions. Now that is not just entirely work of a legislator. It calls upon each and every one of us. When we are talking about teenage pregnancies, and I am glad that the audience here is full of men, and the ones who are behind the camera have high school girlfriends, how are you helping us? It is not a matter to laugh about. most of the young people that I know that are above the age of 18 are going after these young girls. And then when we sit down and have formal debates in boardrooms, oh, they are the first to say this is very wrong, this is unfortunate. But please, let this be collaborative effort. Let us mean what we preach. Because, I mean, you lose nothing, honestly, in letting the girl reach the rightful age when she is able to make a right decision under a sane mind and in a conducive environment. We have a pledge on table from government of Uganda to enable accessibility of pads across the nation. This was on record in the previous term. That is entirely our role as leaders and legislators to push for. My only request is that let us continue strengthening our voice as a community in Uganda to put more pressure for this pledge to be fulfilled. Because this one, we don't want to negotiate about it. I am always challenged by the narrative that if government, Ministry of Health is able to distribute condoms across all health centers in the country, why wouldn't we be able to do the same with pads? Government, I'm very sure, has the capacity to set up plants across the country, and these plants can keep refilling those health centers with pads, so that we know that at least accessibility of pads is not a problem. Now let us deal with the socialization and break down the different notions that are causing us problems. Because it is not funny at all. As a generation, we cannot stand up tomorrow and be proud of what is going on right now. We all have sisters, we all have friends, we all have relatives. We are all born by a mother. As a father, as a young father, your greatest pride would be to see your daughter turn into a successful woman. And that is only possible if she is given the chance to complete a reasonable education. If she is economically empowered, if she has a voice to speak up for herself. So I want to call upon all stakeholders across the board that we can only address this problem to a reasonable magnitude that we can be proud of if we all channel our energies towards it. I want to applaud Reach a Hand Uganda, AfriPads, the National Women Council. I want to applaud individuals like Canary and each and every one of us that takes this plight with passion. It is not one that we are going to address overnight, but I'm sure if we keep on pushing and pushing, we will have more people join us, and yes, in the future we shall look back and say this was our contribution to developing our nation. My only prayer is that it is very, very, very challenging, because I always look at it like it is a rotating, wrecking ball. Sometimes you see like as if you're taking progress, then before you know it, another story, another interaction you hear just discourages you and takes you back, and you be like, are we really going to be able to achieve it? I want to give each and every one of us hope that yes, we can achieve a community, we can achieve a country where sexual reproductive health is actually not debatable, but it is accessible and it is comfortably reached out to each and every citizen. Thank you so much for these efforts. I pray that we keep reaching out to very many different parts of the country. Now, me who is a political leader, I'm in problems. By the time I finish here, the phone calls I'm going to have from different districts. Honorable, for us now in Maracha we are dying. For us in Moroto it is worse. For us in Bukedia, and you don't blame them because they are speaking the truth. Just yesterday, there was a young girl in, I think it was Bukedia. Yes, it was Bukedia district, that was about to die in a quack doctor's house because she was carrying out an abortion. A 15-year-old girl. and then they had to rush her to the nearest health center to have her uterus cleaned up, and they could not afford 50,000 to do that. And they are very much more touching stories. So thank you so much for all of us that have time to take these matters seriously, because they do not just affect the girl child, they affect all of us as a people, they affect the development of this country, and they affect our future. May God richly bless you. I thank you all. To solve such a problem. Well, it is true that Uganda has very many female leaders, not just in parliament but across the board. You see the National Women Council, and there are very many other forums of leadership. We have not yet sat down to say that we have a central collection as female leaders to address this, but I think it is high time we do so. That we have a forum as Uganda Women Association of Parliamentarians, we meet with the National Women Council, and as many female leaders that are willing to come on board, so that we strengthen our voices to putting more pressure in addressing this problem. It is unfortunate that even some female leaders take these things for granted. And I think it is only our sensitization that can keep on pushing more and more to join on board. Individually also, at our own levels, we try as much as possible to see that we reach out to the girl child that we can. The ones that, as far as our hands can stretch really. We've had reach out activities where we have sexual reproductive health education, where we also donate pads here and there, but you see that all that is still not giving us the burning fire that we need to have. So I think this is a very good question that has triggered us, Madam Akwi and Madam Mastula. It is high time that the women of Uganda speak as the mothers of this nation towards this issue. What policies are going to be put in place for the men that are using these girls? Now, my approach to this is, before even we put up the policy, because I've always had a challenge that policies have come on board. You've seen the defilement laws, you've seen the rape laws. They are on paper, but you go down to the community and the people are letting us down. You find a girl of 16 years has been impregnated, the man has been in prison, and then the father, the parents of the child go behind and negotiate. So I think the first policy we need to enact is on us as a people. Speak to your own conscience as a man. What are you doing with a girl that you know very well is underage? And then the law bit of it, for us, we shall keep on strengthening. I have not yet sat down to envisionalize very well what exactly, which policy would pinch the men very well to be uncomfortable. Because if I was president, unfortunately, the murder one would be very easy for me to pass. Then maybe they would be scared. So I think it is more of community policing than what we can put on paper that would help us solve this issue. What modalities are you going to use to raise funds for pads across the country? And this is entirely my opinion, what my energies are channeled to and what I think my mind is set on right now is having a long-term solution. And because these donations that we do are a short-term address and they are not very sustainable. The girl who is going to receive this kit today might need another kit next year. So I think we are looking at addressing the long-term bit of it, and that's where we really want to push for the production of pads in as many localities as possible, reusable pads, so that they are affordable, they are accessible, and they can reach out to as many girls across the country. Thank you.